we're MOOC Observatory, we're doing data and visualization. There's an intersection between what we're doing and what the Web Science Observatory is doing. Manuel, who's one of our folk, is basically boxing and coxing between the two groups. Essentially, what we're interested in is data and processing it. Well, that's no surprise. Collated data and also data in the wild. So the Web Observatory is the data in the wild work. The collated data, we're largely working from Mendeley collections, which we've got. At the moment, we're doing some manual creation of timelines, but this is really about touching the data. But what we're exploring is ways of interfacing Mendeley with NVivo, whether you can use the Mendeley API to export through there, looking at building ontologies and what we can do for the tagging, because we use tagging in Mendeley and whether we can take it in and out, and also futurely looking at using CMAP for that. So what we're trying to do is to get a good feel for the data and then specify for ourselves things that we will do to follow through that will be complementary to individual people's sort of areas of interest. So it's really sort of bootstrapping that kind of an activity. So it's a little less experimental than some of the others, but I think the folk who are involved in it are finding it worthwhile, and that's really what the point of the activity is. Okay.
Super. Thank you.
We've made some progress. We've split into sort of two sides. One side is working on refining and building up existing tools and generating content for it. Other side is based on pushing this research and putting new features and other stuff and sort of going forward. On the sort of content side, we've been trying to build a decent example application out of the tool set that we already have. So we're building a location-aware narrative of Southampton Woolworths. Me, Pat, Claire, and Caroline, and a few others went around the walls this morning, gathered a bunch of data points and some images and things like that, and I'm going to construct that together with the tools we've got into a nice example application. And on the other side of things, the people doing sort of new stuff, there's been a couple of exciting little mini projects going on. Tom's working on looking at location-aware narratives in virtual space rather than real space, so he's working on some integration with Minecraft and a bunch of other stuff. Johnny, wherever he is, there he is, looking straight at him, is working at building some tools to adapt existing texts into location-aware narratives. So, not finished anything yet, but making good enough progress. Should have more to show you on Monday.
Super.
So we're the Model Internet Group, and we're hoping to destroy the internet. Of course, before we destroy the internet, we have to build it first. So we found a Java simulator, and we've got some root data. We're putting the root data together, so we've been able to create an internet topology. Next thing we need to do is figure out how we're going to get some traffic to move around this newly created structure that we've got. Also separately looking at an attack which might work against SIP protocol for telephony. There's a small amount of progress being made on that. But
we're the identifying common sites from a fire group, and we're going to be doing an experiment after lunch where we're testing people's ability to recognise common sites from distance. So we're going to be doing that down on level 3. We're looking for the participants. You're just required to walk down the corridor and then tell us when you recognise what site is being viewed on a monitor at the end. And we're doing this because of the kind of very open nature of the lab. It's kind of interesting to know, what people can see other people are doing across. Ricky's monitor in particular is always very, very visible, and he gets paranoid, when he's on social media and stuff. But yes, we're looking for participants.
Yeah, we're doing the looking around looking for entrance data. We were originally supposed to be doing crowdsourcing open data, but we've recently discovered Google Forms, which neither of us has heard of before or used before, so that's actually kind of solved that problem. So what we decided to do is basically collect this legendary data set of building entrance data. Our team currently consists of myself, Chris, and Alex, who isn't here. But he's actually really handy because he's a genuine use case for disabled access. So we're going to sort of he's been going around all of the entrances to as many buildings on campus as he can, working out how easy it is for him to get in, and also noting down other stuff about it as well, things like whether you need a card and whatnot. And just this morning I've put together a sort of ontology for it, so that's basically the progress we've made so far. Hopefully by the end we'll have an actual new data set on data.som that will tell you where all of the entrances to all the different buildings are.
Yeah, we're the Web Observatory Group, and we're working on designing a dashboard to visualise the Twitter data regarding the upcoming digital marketing MOOC. At the moment we're using dummy data because obviously digital marketing MOOC isn't there yet, so we're using FL WebSci, which is the FutureLearn MOOC that ran recently, and we're also using FunnyCat as well to get as a hashtag for FunnyCat. We're using it to display the map kind of visualization. So we've got a number of visualizations.
What's FunnyCat?
FunnyCat is a hashtag that's used quite geographically spread across, and it's part of our dummy data that we're going to use. But we're making a model to kind of like put the new FL Digital hashtag in once it comes. So we've got a map of the geographic spread, so we can see clusters of where people are accessing the MOOC. We've got a network graph of who's tweeting who's mentioning who, and what other hashtags are used in accordance with those as well. We're using a leaderboard for progression through the MOOCs as well. So we've got a dummy data set from the FutureLearn Web Science data set we've got. So we're kind of ranking people according to how much they progress through the site. We're also going to have a chat system through that, so people can log in with their social media and chat through the site as well with each other and share content and visualization. That's it. Yeah.
Good work. You think it's summer? Don't know, this morning will be great. Okay, so what Ian and I have been doing is looking at some data from Flickr, images and metadata, to try and see if we can predict when seasonal changes happen. Now, the thing that we've been looking at thus far is the colours of leaves. So we've taken a set of about 46 million images. We've narrowed those down to the ones that were tagged with the word leaves to give us about 80,000 images, just over 80,000 images. We've developed an image feature that measures the amount of, or the difference between the amounts of red and the amounts of green in those images. And then we've tried to look for how those values that we extract from the visual information change over time. And I have a graph here. I should start with this one here. So the first thing we did was narrow down the area we were looking at to New England, because it's well known for having leaves that change colour. What we're looking at on this graph is colour on the y-axis. So at the top it's all red, and at the bottom it's all green, and it's showing a change between red and green. And we're looking at time across the x-axis. So the first thing to note is that people in New England take more photos in the autumn. That's seen by these pulses of lots of images. But if you look at this data closely, you can see other patterns. You can see that there are more green images in the summer, and there are more red images in the autumn. So we're seeing the kinds of patterns that we're hoping to extract. In addition to just looking at New England, we also looked at the entire Northern Hemisphere, so we have a lot more data. And again, you can see the same patterns there. You get big clusters on an annual basis of green leaves, essentially, and then in the autumn, you get massive pulses of red. So the next thing we're going to do is try and make some visualization of this, perhaps using some of the tools that we developed last year.
Yes, so we're the Showing Off Impact Group. So we've been looking at what we can do to basically generate some kind of multimedia presentation from all the data we've got on the DTC Impact Tracker. So we're making some good progress. It's an interesting challenge because we've got this mix of sort of very visual media and then this really quantitative stuff that we somehow need to visualize into something that looks interesting and is useful and fits nicely with these really rich presentations we've got, and then to get in these sort of textual representations we've got from people of what happened and what they thought and the kind of impact they were having at the time. So it's kind of an interesting narrative problem and sort of presentation.
So our team is dealing with the linking of people and scientific objects in WAIS, and we have a short updates on the wiki if I missed anything out. But one thing I want to show is that we have a good teams of people who work on the data back-end size, thanks to people as a deploy a service on CMS very quickly. And we have people working on the visualization side, and we're working on linking project to people in WAIS. So hopefully we will have more interesting data to show later, but this is, like this kind of thing we want to show. So, like people connecting to ePrint's publications, and then later we will connect more stuff, and that is being done at the moment. So next time, live data from Picasso that we're doing at the moment, and we managed to get the ePrint data in, and then now we're trying to use it.
Everyone, we are the linked AT group, and currently we have two groups, subgroups divided to different tasks. The first one is doing the application part, and the second one is doing the data part. And we have cleaned the data from the EA's AppTech database, and we also have built the ontology for the assistive technology products. And today, and we also crawled more than 14,000 AT products from some AT products website. And the next step, we are trying to publish the data as a linked data, and also trying to interlinking with another the data we crawled in. And yeah, we are also trying to build the application that to give consuming this data. And yeah, that's it.
We're the Alan Walks Wales group, and after all of that myriad amount of data that we have available, we're concentrating in the first place on just telling the story, so that being able to provide an interactive map to see where Alan was on a particular day, and then see the associated pictures, blogs and audio files from that date, from exactly that time, so you can follow him around and sort of walk with him. We thought that's a really good starting place, and then we can start to think about, or other people can take on the challenge of looking at the other source of data after that. One thing we're using at the minute, we're using Google Maps and the Google API. One thing we'd like to work on, if we've got time a little bit later on, is to see whether we can make the similar sets of data work with the location-aware narrative tools. At the minute, a quick win is to go with the Google ones. We'll then start, once we know a bit more about that data that we have, to then see whether we can work with other tools as well. But I think these are going to be projects that will be carrying on for a long time after WAISfest is finished. And that's it, really.
So in the personal data theme, we've been doing two things. The first, we've been playing with this receipt, consent receipt idea. Ruben is bringing one of these little printers down at the moment. I'll try a live demo. So this is one sitting in the office where they're made. The idea being, you consent to use a web service, you don't read all those terms of service, you just click through. Wouldn't it be better if you had something to take away with you to remind you what you consented to, that you could have a sort of receipt for that consent? So here's one we printed earlier, and hopefully that will print out another receipt from some Facebook terms of service if it works. Also linked on the wiki page is an updated draft of an input into a UK government policy making process on data sharing. We've been trying to work out what would the data standard for disclosing when Department A shares data with Department B, your personal data, how could they do that in an openly published machine readable way? Been exploring the UK National Gazette as a mechanism to do that, because that now provides nicely semantically enriched data, or what sort of other open data register approaches might work. In true spirit of live demo, it's not working.